Hello, I want to make another one of my series, and I would like to talk about this dream because it ties right into that subject as well. That dream I had last night in the morning hours was I'm trying to recollect it. I should have written it down right away, but I didn't have time. So I am trying to recollect it as much as I can. It had a significance, that dream. Some dreams have quite some significance in it. I don't know if that's the truth or if it just feels like it to me. But anyway, the dream I had, I was in this same situation again. I had a similar dream like this before, always like when driving, either being naked or driving a large motorhome or gigantic truck which I don't have full control over. And this time I was driving a gigantic motorhome, like 50 feet in length and really wide, extra high, and I was sitting extra high like in those semi trucks, and I remember this looking down in front of me, like towards the street. I was like 2 stories high or something, and my dog was in the back of that motorhome, and it was a new motorhome, and I wasn't used to this, and I didn't know how to drive this, and I was trying to drive this motorhome off the lot, and people were coaching me, but they didn't really know what they were doing because they coached me in the wrong direction. And then I didn't know how to back up, and I had to actually drive over a curb. And then I said, I know I should have tried to find a different exit, but I had to drive over this curb now, and I thought the motorhome was going to fall or something terrible was going to happen. It would hit somehow the center of the pipes and stuff, but it didn't. It was driving up that curb as if it was designed for it. But it was again this feeling of I'm driving this gigantic motorhome and I'm not in control, and it's very representative for my life. I feel somehow the whole world is sitting on my shoulders and I have to do something to save the world, so literally save the world. And when I was a child, they always told me, you can't save the world. They just kept on repeating and repeating, and like a mantra, you can't save the world. Just forget it all, So, and it just didn't sound right, it didn't feel right. It sounded like something that people just downloaded and kept on repeating and making copies of it. That's how it sounded. It is a downloaded, nonsensical thing, just as 90% of the stuff that humanity believes in. And people don't ask any questions, like Tony Robbins talks about this in his seminar, how people have these impotent beliefs and they just download it and then they accept it as facts and truth, and they just repeat it like a mantra for themselves, and like money doesn't grow on trees, those kind of things. And I know for sure that that's not true. It's absolutely not true. I mean, what is money? People don't even ask that question. If you have an apple tree, that's money right there, And the best of all, it's much better than money. It's nutritious, and your own apple tree without pesticides, without chemical fertilizers, without any chemicals tossed on it from airplanes or whatever, or dusted or fumigated or maimed or cut or killed. None of that. Just Garden Eden apples, and yes, it is money on trees, right? Or anything else that grows on trees. Avocados and oranges and pears and so on, and lemons and oranges and tangerines, and the list goes on and on and on, and plums. So anyone who would say something like this, they obviously haven't thought about what a fruit tree is. So I mean, it's just, there's just so many examples to demonstrate to you that people download nonsensical things all the time, and have been for millennia, for thousands of years. And I question all of this, and I want other people to question too, and without questioning we're not going to make much progress at all, neither for our own lives nor for life on earth in general. So I thought this dream was quite significant, and in this dream it always feels like I am too fast getting into something that is way over my head. Something somehow feels like this my whole life, and always this is way too fast and way over my head. So, and that's why I kind of retreated for a while into safety and into contemplation, because I don't want to get into something that is way over my head. I was going to school way too soon, when I was just barely 6 years old. I just turned 6. They put me in school a few months later, or 2 or 3 months later, and it was way over my head. It was way too soon. I was totally overwhelmed. I couldn't focus. I didn't understand anything. Everything was new. I didn't ask any questions, even because I was overwhelmed with the stuff. And then my whole life just continued on from there on. I was a late developer, not developmentally handicapped at all, quite the opposite, but a late developer. So I was, my brother too, so we were both not ready to go to school yet. We were still kindergarten mentality, we were still like overwhelmed with everything that life threw at us, like all these images, all this stuff, and particularly stuff that made no sense, stuff that was neurotic. And for people who have HSP, highly sensitive person syndrome, like I have, this is something new. This has been recently determined by a woman, by a psychologist, I believe, psychologist or neurologist. And this should be taken very seriously, because it is, and a lot of people with Asperger's have this HSP syndrome, and this is always mixed up by other people with, they always understand it as some kind of dysfunction, but it's actually, it's only a dysfunction if you suffer. If you're too sensitive for this world and you suffer, then you can probably view it as a dysfunction. But in general, it's the opposite of a dysfunction. It's the opposite of a retardation, or the opposite of some developmental delay. It is, even though it is often people who are late developers, those people only have a longer lifespan. It's only the longer lifespan that creates this. It's like You know, you take my lifespan next to a normal person's lifespan, you see that the development will be lapsed, further prolonged, okay, into chronological years further. Okay, so that means that when I was 8 or 9, I was on the level of those who were 6, you know, at that time. So when I was 6, I was on the level of 3 or 4. So that's why it didn't work out. My life is just longer, and I don't like that very much. So I don't like that idea of having to live a whole lot longer, and I don't know how that's gonna turn out, and so I don't even want to think about it. But I'm gonna try to make the best out of it as good as I can. And I did an IQ test just to appease the haters out there. I had my very first IQ test, I had a score of 104, so this is average, but towards the upper end. And if I trained IQ tests, I could get better at it. Other people have done it too. They have trained it and they reach 200, and I believe that if I trained this stuff, I could reach it as well. I am very lazy when it comes to math. It doesn't interest me, it doesn't fascinate me, and calculations and riddle solving and those kind of things, you know. And therefore it's kind of like a lazy muscle, you know. I can train this very well. I know that every time I have done math calculations at home for school, then the next day I totally got it, I understood it, and I could even explain it to other people. But in general, I was very lazy when it came to things that didn't interest me. I have quite a narrow range of things that interest me, and that has to do also with my mental illness. I'm interested in psychology and philosophy and nothing else, basically. And yeah, it has to do with the suffering, because the suffering opened up an awful lot of questions. So this is the only thing that I'm really fascinated about, and that I want to read about and talk about and think about all day long. But if I got into math and riddle solving and these cognitive problem solving questions, which make up 99% of an IQ test, then I could get into this as well, and I can improve myself and reach that. The dream was very significant, because after this feeling of being overwhelmed with too much of a responsibility with this large motorhome, I somehow, the dream shifted to ghosts, and all of a sudden I was envisioning how these ghosts were looking. They had like an empty space in the face, and the facial area was very narrow and very small. They had this type of hood over them, or some kind of hood type of formation. It would almost look like a robot, and it had this almost like a TV screen in the middle, and it was shrouded with some kind of material that made that facial area very small and confined. And then I said to somebody, these ghosts, these hungry ghosts, they can't expand the horizon because their visual field is so small. They have just such a narrow visual field. They can't see beyond a certain like a perspective, like an angle, like a camera angle. You know, they can't see out of this narrow camera angle. They have a confined visual field. I remember this terminology. And I was thinking, this is why these ghosts, or the ghost energies, the ghost souls, you know, there are many, many, many of those out there. Most souls out there are of this type of nature. It's like a new soul, completely new soul, like a baby soul that is craving and hungry, and it wants to take 100 steps at once. So it showed itself to me in this dream in form of this type of shrouded robot, like Asimo, but with a very small visual face area and camera angle, eye angle, you know. So it's kind of weird. And then I thought, so this is why they have such a hard time seeing a big picture, because their own visual field is so narrowed down. It's like it has blinders on the side. They can only look. That's where this word tunnel vision is coming from. They can only see, like, wherever they're looking at, they can only see this one specific range that they see, visual range, you know, very limited visual range. They can't see out of that. And that's why so many people, you know, so many hungry ghost souls, they get into the religion, and then they think this is all there is. You know, there is nothing beyond. But I'm telling them, if they want to move beyond, they must expand their visual field. Try at least. Try as much as you can. So I have this feeling they came to visit me in my dreams. I always say to them, wherever I am, probably people think I'm nuts, but we had an encounter here in our house, and it was brought on by myself. I brought this on. It was not very cool. It was after Mindy McCready died, and I did some fun channeling video, which I later removed. And because I did that, and I had a funky feeling about this whole thing in the very beginning, and my intellect came in and said, it's all bullshit, why do you do this? Why do you believe that? And so I was just making this fun film, bought a wig for that purpose and all of this. But it's not funny, because then this energy appeared all of a sudden. Not with me, but with my husband. And that was the creepiest of all, because my husband is an atheist and he doesn't believe in any of this. And he said he saw me sitting at the bed, but I was already downstairs. And when he said, "What's going on?" I got a real creepy feeling, because I heard him say that. And he said that he saw that figure sitting on the side of the bed, like it was me, and all of a sudden the shadow, this outlining of a person, kind of looked like was falling down on the floor in front of the bed. And he looked, and there was nothing. And I hollered up and I said, I'm already in my own bed. And that really, and from then on I knew I'm never gonna bother with, never gonna ever deal with this again. And it's also something that Soma Qinghai said and warned people about, you know, better not channeling anybody, and better not speak in tongues, because she said these entities, they may be benevolent, but they may be malicious as well. You don't know. It could be a hungry ghost who just wants to take possession of your body, or comes in energy form and visits you. I believe that Mindy McCready didn't come in a negative way, because I was trying to help her also with that video, and I felt terrible for her, what happened. So I felt more like she was trying to communicate with us, and saying that she's still hurting very, very much about what happened, the murder. She was murdered, but it was declared suicide. When was that? Was 2 years or so ago, and this really bothered me. This is one of the many, many, many things of injustice that are happening and going on. But anyway, I definitely have this telepathic communication, and I can see people's past incarnations and so on, and all of this is a little bit overwhelming often. This sounds very, very, very lunatic now to every to every skeptic that may have subscribed to my channel, and maybe they're unsubscribed now, but that's okay. I need to talk about this. I can't talk to my husband about it, because even though my husband saw the shadow, he argued it away by saying, oh, that was just a shadow in the corner of his eye, so that's how he rationalized it away. But it was right in that night after I did that video, and I don't believe in coincidences. And I also had a lot in common with this girl. I had some things in common with her. May not look like it on the outside, but I did, and my husband even pointed that out, or I would never even have found out about her. He said, look, there's this girl. She looks a bit like you, and she acts like you, and she cries like you, and has these problems. And then I got into researched her a little bit, and I could see that there were a couple of parallels that I could definitely determine. And I felt sorry for her, and that's why I made this video, and also felt like this needed to be more investigated, and I wanted to just somehow combine this into a video that made people look into this material a little bit more. But I only had like a handful of people watch that video at all, and then that happened with the shadow, and later on I took the video off, and I decided I'm never ever gonna get into anything anymore. Whether it's people who want to cast out evil spirits, or people who speak in tongues, or shamans getting into a trance, or people channeling or whatever. I don't want anything to do with that anymore. So it's freaky. It's not cool. And I certainly don't want to channel anyone. It's way too scary, and I always have this feeling I need to be in charge of my own body. I don't want to lose track or control over my own body. I also don't want to take hallucinogenic drugs because of this, because I don't know what's going to happen if I do. I'm so afraid already that I don't know. And then I heard a lot of terrible stories of people who murdered someone at night in their sleep, or like they were sleepwalking, and those kind of things. I want to be as much in control of myself, of my own nervous system, as I possibly can, and not lose this control to some other driving force that's out there, or substance, or entity, or whatever. So that would not be cool. But I do communicate with the ghosts, and in a way that I say, if you want to talk to me, talk to me in my head, talk to me per telepathy, give me your question, or show up in my dreams and communicate to me in my dreams and tell me what you want, and maybe we can figure something out together, and maybe I can help you come to peace, with yourself and with the people who did you wrong. And we all have to, no matter who we are, we have to understand that whoever did us wrong was definitely not on the level and not ready to understand and feel the other person, the other individual, animal or human. And so out of this then develops a lot of grudges, and that Wolfgang talks about this as well. And Sumak Ching Hai talks about it, and many other people talk about it. Everybody has something to say about it. But one thing is clear to me, is that nothing is casted out or expelled or banned or put into damnation, or that is never a good way to deal with anything. The only way to deal with any kind of hungry ghost energy, whether it is bullies or murderers or sadistic people or entities, or maybe showing up in some other form, or in any form. It could be an ET or a scorpion or a snake, or I think a lot of parasitic animals are they're probably new souls. And they're always, it's always this need, wanting, not seeing the other as the other wants too. The other needs to live too. They're not seeing it. They're so overwhelmed with their need. This hunger. Eat, hunger, need, greed. People like Richard Berman, young souls. Need. I want to make the 100 steps. I want to get this orgasm. I want to get this LSD trip. I want to be tripping. I want to I want to be Elvis. I want to do this. I want to me. Some people do it also to run away from pain. Okay, I don't include them into this equation, but I see it a lot with a lot of people who are. It's all about this joyride, Disneyland, roller coaster experience. I want the girls. I want to. Not seeing the other. There's an other. There is an other there. When an animal and a human is involved in this equation, that is the other person, the other being, the other entity, the other soul. And they want to live their lives. They want to make their learning experiences. They want to find out in a smooth transition, what is the meaning of life? Why am I here? What do we want? Where do we move towards? Okay? They want to do this in their own pace. They don't want to be challenged all the time by hungry ghosts who constantly think about me, eating, needing, Psychopath, need. They don't see the other person. We need to train the compassion center. I see now it can be trained. It can be trained like my math skills can be trained. It can be trained like like giving speeches. I'm training this with the videos. That's very difficult for me too, because I'm highly sensitive. I'm very sensitive towards hungry ghost energies, and they're always there in every audience. You know, Glenn Gould talks about this in his biographical interviews. There was a film made about him, a documentary film, and he talked about this. He said that he had to quit playing in front of very large audiences, which he used to do in the very beginning when he was still young. A genius, the reincarnation of Johann Sebastian Bach, and an absolute music genius, and incredible music. It makes me get shivers that are spiraling down my body when I listen to Glenn Gould play Bach. It's out of this world. It is something that is coming from another realm. It's not coming from this realm. It's not coming from this dimension. It's coming from the 5th or 10th dimension. It's amazing. I recommend to everybody to listen to it. It is incredible. It makes me feel like I'm at home. So Glenn Gould, he's soulmate, of course. You know, we're all sensitive people are soulmates. And Glenn Gould, he couldn't do it either. In the very beginning, he was still playing, but he said he felt that energy in the audience. There were so many entities out there in that audience that were just waiting, thirsting, like predators, for him to make a wrong move. And it's out of jealousy and the need for him to do something wrong, so that they don't have to feel this feeling of inadequacy while they're sitting in the audience and envying his genius. And that's what it's all about, you know. But only a hungry ghost energy, a very small-minded person, a very young baby soul, will not understand that the path, you know, the true path is to sit with that feeling of envy. We all can have envy. I suffered terribly from envy. That's getting better now. The more I go within myself, the less I have the envy. The more I understand that is another person who wants to live, and who did not become beautiful or talented to go on my nerves. Obviously, yeah, they are doing this because they have their history behind them. They have good karma accumulated. They have done something. They chose this path to experience something. You know, it has nothing to do with me. But the ghost energies, they see something. They just wanna. The ghost energies, they just want that other person to make mistakes so that they can feel better themselves. And Glenn Gould, he felt it. It felt like lead on him, and it got so bad. It got worse after every performance. He felt worse and worse and worse. He felt like there was this energy of hatred and of ill will against him, and it was so heavy and so thick, and so he just had to leave it behind. And then, of course, a genius, a perfect person, like Glenn Gould, is superhuman, you know. But what he couldn't handle the energies around him, just like me. Yeah. He couldn't handle it. It was just too much. It was too exhausting. So what happens? He ends up going to a psychiatrist, and not just to one. He went to like 3 different psychiatrists, and he got 3 times the medication that he was supposed to take. But even taking medication in the first place was killing him. But he was taking 3 times the doses of antidepressants and Prozac and other stuff. and it was killing him very early. I think he died at age 50 something, or 51 or something. So yeah, it is absolutely dramatic. I mean, someone like this, or Mozart, you know, everybody who's like very, very highly sensitive, these people are, they usually don't make it very long. That it's just way too stressful, way too hard, way too exhausting. It's so exhausting that, you know, and then the outside world, they go like, oh, this is a heavily depressed person, and oh, there must be something wrong with them. Oh, we need to send them to a psychiatrist so that we can fix them, you know. But it really is the other way around, and a lot of people have already recognized this and have written books about this. Yeah. So few people who do recognize this, that it actually isn't the person who is determined as sick by society. It is actually society who determines someone to be sick who is really sick themselves, and who's sick in a very unsensitive way, and in a very bullyish and very negative way, and they often cause the sensitive people to commit suicide. And just the energies themselves, it's just so exhausting and so stressful to be alive when you're a sensitive person. Yeah. So and I feel so crushed, you know. And when I watch other people, normal people in quotation marks, normal, functioning, adapted, you know, that fit in as puzzle pieces into this society that is, you know, quite crude. And when I watch these people, I get jealous. I feel like I want to be one of those, you know. I want to be. Sometimes I wish like I didn't have any feelings at all. You know, sometimes I wish I'd just be numb. Like at the dentist office, I wanted my whole body to be numb, not just the cheek. I felt like, oh, what if I could make my whole body numb? Then if I could make my entire body numb, I wouldn't feel any more pain at all, neither physical nor emotional. Then I wouldn't be regarded as a bitch anymore, because people who are in pain are regarded as bitch. And that's the clear fact. You know. Anyone who has no pain, no emotional pain, who are kind of like numb on their whole body. There was this little girl at the Maury show, I never forget this. It's very tragic because she poked her 2 eyes out with toys when she was a toddler because she didn't feel any pain. Had no pain sensation. The pain sensation was not processed in the brain. It was somehow disconnected before it got into the conscious processing of these kind of outside stimuli, and lost her eyesight, of course. And she stabbed those eyeballs as well, and was bleeding out of her eyes, and her parents were horrified, and did a bunch of those things, or she would fall and she wouldn't say anything because she didn't feel any pain, and then have some major injuries. So, you know, that's why we have pain. We have pain reception in order to protect ourselves. But it should be balanced. It shouldn't be where you go the other extreme, like in my case, where I can't tolerate any pain at all. You know, when I had pain in my tooth the other day at Walmart, I was sitting in the car screaming. Yeah, someone else could have called the police. They would have come and knocked on the door. Ma'am, what's wrong here? And I would say, I'm in pain. Yeah, good. What good does that do us? But nobody came. There was only a sadistic woman who snickered at me being in pain. That was a whole lot better than the police showing up. One time I was crying in my car in LA. I was just crying, that's all. Somebody came to the window and said, "Can I help you?" Like this, like with the rudest tone in his voice. And I said, "No, because I'm just crying, that's all." And he was real mad, like steaming mad. And, "Why are you crying?" I said, "I'm just crying, that's all. Is that okay that I'm just crying?" "No, that's not okay." And whoa, it's like not okay to cry in your own car at the on the driver's seat, like cry like this quietly. No, it's not okay. Okay, so yeah. But these are my encounters with humanity, and they're not too cool. One time I fell against the door on Venice Boulevard, and the guy says, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I just fell over your car door that you opened just before I got there with my bicycle. I couldn't react that fast, and I flew like a somersault over this door, and my bicycle flew under, like against the door and underneath, and nothing happened, thank goodness, but I was bruised up." And so I said I was hurting, and I said, "No, I'm not okay." So he gets in the van, closes the door, and drives off. And so I drag my bicycle and my body, I drag myself to the side, crying mainly over the coldness of this driver. And then a fundamentalist lady comes across, about 70 years old, with bleached blonde hairdo this high, like a turban high, and some high heels and all kinds of clunker on her. And she says real rudely, "What happened to you?" It's like, oh my gosh, in which dimension am I here? And I said, I told her what happened, and she said real angrily to me with that forefinger, "You need to repent to Jesus." And then she started a whole tirade of lecturing about Jesus, the Lord Jesus, and you need to repent to the Lord, and the Lord, and the Lord, and the Lord. And I was standing there, that I hadn't been in the U.S. for maybe 4 months, 5 months that I'd been in the United States living. I was in the very beginning. I was still in my training program at the center. And I was just, me coming from Europe where nobody talks about religion. For me it was such an enormous culture shock. I thought, this cannot be true. I thought I was brought back to the past. Because this is what we read about the past, like 300 years ago people were talking like this, and like hellfire damnation and witch burning and thou shalt not do blah blah blah. And all of a sudden I was like brought back to the past, and I thought, this is not possible that the people in the United States, or like lots of those, actually exist there and still have that same archaic mindset and belief and attitude, and it just didn't make any sense to me. I was in total shock. So it was like a cascade of events that made me so depressed. And it was so exhausting and so I felt like I can hardly breathe. It felt like lead on my chest. It's very difficult for very highly sensitive people to exist in a world of where there are so many people, and it seems like in the United States there's an awful lot of those hungry ghosts who manifest in parasitic insects and in very religious humans who they have this tunnel vision. They can't think beyond this tunnel vision, and they're also afraid. They're very, very, very afraid, these people. Very afraid and very, very lashing out. Both of them. Very bullyish. Very like sneaky snickering. You know, it's always this. For example, I had a video in which I was addressing a letter to Kim Jong-un and wanted people to write a letter to Kim Jong-un and tell him to reconsider what he said about, you know, his threats and his attitude towards the United States, and to understand that there are innocent beings living here in the United States, and not to create a war. And I was very worried about this, so I was contemplating over this letter, and I had his address and all of this. And this fundamentalist Christian lady comes to my channel, and she has this weird, sneaky, like a thief type of attitude. She knew what I wanted to get at. I wanted to create world peace. Yeah. But she just wanted the address from Kim Jong-un in order to tell him her opinion on him, like this, you know. So, like, not peace, you know. But she did this in such a sneaky way, the way she said to me, well, thank you for the address, I'm off. And the way she communicated with me, I could feel that energy, you know. It wasn't, and she was just like, God bless you, and sneaky, you know, like backstabberish. Not honest, not straightforward. Fearful and sneaky and full of lies. And it's that energy that so many people have. That is so sad for me to see, you know. And this was a long video now about finding fault. Now I want to spend the last few minutes at least on saying we need to look at the issues. Everybody needs to, every hungry ghost has to, in order to correct this, you know, I'm not holding grudges against them, but I know that this is a pathology of soul and mind, and then making their own body sick with that. We can fix this, okay, and we have the obligation to fix this. Every one of us. If I am jealous, and if I am whatever, having negative feelings against somebody, I have to come to grips with myself, and I have to stop right there where I am, instead of writing an angry letter, reconsider this and sit with that feeling. Sit with that, the nastiest of all envy feelings and cravings and aversions and so on. Okay, sit with it. Really sit with it. I have done it, and I tell you, it feels good. It feels extremely liberating, and we have that obligation to ourselves and others and the greater good. And we can make this planet here a paradise if we become aware of these things, if we stop this terrible destruction with these terrible belief systems, these dualistic warmongering belief systems, Islam, Judaism and Christianity, and several other religions that I don't know, some religions in India that sacrifice animals and children. Okay, they need to come to grips, they need to understand what they are doing is completely wrong. Okay, completely. We need to come to our senses with this, and we need to understand that this is not true love. Okay, this is the opposite of true love. That's a void of love. All of these things. So the only way we can reach true love is if we stop right now in our tracks from what we were doing. all this sneaky backstabbing and the hurting and this and the bullying and this and trying to sabotage people's lives. All of this is out of hungry ghost energy. All of this is out of just the need for the ego to feel better. Okay, this is pathological. We can stop that right now, and we can sit and just contemplate with whatever. What is it? What is it, Johnny? Okay, what is it, Peter? What is it, Mike? You know, 3 names that come to my mind of hungry ghosts that I can think of right now. What is it? You know, I'm not looking down on you. I'm not making fun of you. I look at eye level with you. What is it? Sit down on your chair. Don't talk to anyone. Sit down and think about this. Go within yourself. Do it. Contemplate for a long time, for an hour or something. Sit, just sit there and let everything be. Whatever comes up, if it's jealousy, some people don't even know what it is. They are dabbling in complete darkness with this. That's why I make these videos, so we can become aware of our own problematic that is going on inside of us. If you don't know what the underlying problem is, what you do is you sit down on the chair with that feeling, and whatever feeling is there, or if you don't think there's any feeling, sit down anyway and just sit there for an hour and do nothing. Just sit there and go within yourself and observe. Become your own observer and feel what it is, what's going on. Okay. And then you can, when you start to understand yourself, who you are, what your feelings are, and why your feelings are there, why there's jealousy, okay, why there's a feeling of entitlement. When you learn, when you trace it back to its causes, there are many causes, one cause underneath the other. Go through all of these increments, step by step. Do it every day, and your life will become so much better. You have absolutely no idea. Okay, you haven't even experienced true love yet. You don't know what it is. You think true love is sex. True love is there's sex stores that have the title love, hearts. That's not love. And you'll think I'm the total nerd and I'm totally boring and all of this. You haven't tried true love yet. You don't even know what it feels like. You can't even reach it. It's out of your reach right now, because you have barricaded yourself with armors and armors and armors of aversion and self-protection and ego. You don't even see the other being as a living being, just like you. You don't even see yourself as a living being, your own body. Okay? You don't treat yourself with respect. You don't respect yourself. You don't love yourself. You can't do any of this. And while you're in that state of craving and hungry ghost needing and aversion and self-protection and paranoia and all of this, go within yourself and stop all that thinking. Stop all this insane clinging to things and just let it be. Let it be. Just for this moment, just for an hour a day. Just let it be. Tell your friends, I need an hour a day by myself in my room. I'm going to close the door. I'm going to close the window and leave it a gap open for air, and then I'm going to sit in my recliner chair or bed or office chair and just sit there for an hour and just accept what is. That's all. Just accept what is. Everything, your thoughts, and incredible, insane thoughts coming up and going and coming and going, and feelings, but you get to know all of it. You get to know all of it in its pure naked form, and that's where you want to go. And then you get to know yourself, and then you get to learn, oh my gosh, this is what happened, and this is why I felt like this, and this is why I did like this. And maybe some guilt will come up. Allow it to be. And if that comes up, say sorry. Don't worry. The person doesn't have to hear it in the room. Maybe the person is already dead. It doesn't matter who that is. The animal or person, dead or alive. Whatever age, it doesn't matter. However far away from you, doesn't matter. In this room right now, say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I have done to you. I made you suffer. And I'm infinitely sorry for that. Do this every day. And say sorry to yourself. Say sorry to your own body.